Right, well, Clive, here we are.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, I've got memories of the early revival of the Bodmin riding. I think you probably have, you were involved with it reenactors as well, weren't you?
Yeah.
I guess it was about 1974 that they revived the...
I believe so. Pat Munn certainly.
Well,
was
she
involved
did
back
an
then.
absolute classic history. I mean, she traced all the way through. It was clearly a going concern in various forms, some respectable, some less so,
Yes.
throughout the 19th century, whereupon it fizzled out and they revived it in 1974. I think at that stage, the bit interesting us, of course, is the Bodmin play, or the court as it was then. I think it was the mock court.
Yes.
I seem to remember they had all the dignitaries sat down having a feast outside Mount Folly there, and when it finished, they hung the mayor. Is that right?
That's it. Yeah.
They hung the mayor. So, and that was going on 1974, and that had various forms for the next couple of decades. I think sometimes the hanging of the mayor, which was very well reenacted, wasn't awfully well approved of.
Well, that being said, people have constantly said, "Oh, can't we bring back the hanging of the mayor?"
Well, exactly, yes.
Yeah.
I think it was poor Roger Vicar up in St Maurice's, wasn't he?
Yeah, that's right.
They used to hang him. I think he quite enjoyed it, actually. But
Yes, of course.
anyway, that had various lives, and that stopped. That ceased in 2000, 2001, that kind of time. The riding carried on, but the actual core part of it there stopped.
Yeah. I mean, I was always concerned that at that point it had become called the Bodmin Heritage, hadn't it?
Yes.
And focusing on one specific piece of historical activity, so the end of the Prayer Book Rebellion and the hanging of the mayor, I mean, it worried me that we were just focusing on one
Piece of
historical
heritage,
line.
and not Bodmin's story.
And there's a lot more.
Yeah, a lot more.
Yeah.
So, sometime in 2004, 2005, you got together with Will Coleman, who had been commissioned to create a focal point for the riding.
Yes. As you say, he'd been commissioned to come up with a focal point for the reinvention of the riding. I don't think that's too harmful a word for it. Well, you know Will, and he's been involved in such reinventions before, and is very interested in folk tales and plays and mummery and guising, and so his idea was to come up with something which would be a focus for the day or weekend or however long the festival actually lasted. And his initial thought was, what do people now associate with Bodmin? And he came up with the Beast of Bodmin.
Of course, yes. That was the. It was funny. It was about the time when the Dangerous Animal Act came in.
Yeah. And
people suddenly found that they couldn't actually have their lovely pet cougar or whatever it was. And we suspect that some were released onto Bodmin Moor. We don't know.
We don't know.
We don't know. But that's the kind of background, and suddenly people were seeing this beast.
Yes, absolutely. And every few months it appeared there was reports of some mystical beast up on the moor,
and the
savaging sheep, and the Beast of Bodmin became what was identified with Bodmin. So I have to agree with him. It was the obvious thing to choose.
But actually, you fitted in a lot more of the history around that. Yes.
Well, you see, we'd come up with this is what the centrepiece was going to be. Well, what do we need to do with that? As I said, he'd got traditions of mummers plays and guising and what have you. So he felt that what we needed to do was have a death and resurrection, because this was a common theme with mythical beasts and mummers plays. So what we needed to do then was to construct a play which allowed us to enact a death and resurrection of our iconic beast.
And your iconic beast became the personification of Cornwall.
Almost by accident, yes.
Isn't that interesting? Because you, like so many folk traditions, you start off in one way, but other things feed in, which you actually haven't got much control over.
Well, quite. I mean, it grew out of the play. So we were trying to represent various historical incidents throughout Cornish history, and
you've got some lovely names like Oliver Cromwell.
Oh yes, well of course Oliver Cromwell and
King Henry and
well yes,
all these people that impacted upon Cornwall's history.
Yes. I mean some of them are absolutely historical figures. Some of them are an amalgam of various historical figures. So King Hal, yes, he's an amalgam of every Anglo-Saxon and Plantagenet and Tudor king you've got. Old Oliver Cromwell, yes, loosely based on Oliver Cromwell, but also every English Civil War parliamentarian because of what happened following the Civil War. Okay, so we decided that we would construct this play which enabled our beast to die and be resurrected. And it rapidly transpired that, the things that these people were doing closely reflected what had happened to the martyrs at the end of the prayer book rebellion. So again, it tied in with our 1549.
Well, this was a very clever piece of theatre, was to have the feature event at 1549.
Thank you, yes. Again, that was just inspired by me, really. That's when we need to do it, is 11 minutes to 4.
Exactly. Well, the 1549 rebellion is in many respects, thanks to yourselves, I've become very aware of the significance that in the Cornish history it's the kind of watershed before and after.
Yes.
And much of Cornish history is defined by that.
Yeah.
But you were saying that other things happen. I mean, the tell me about the Helliers. They hunt the beast.
Yes. So, obviously, the beast, being a large muppet, I suppose, needs somebody to go in it to be the beast for our play. So, what we thought we'd do was engage the young people of the town to take it in turns to portray the beast, but also so that they had something to do throughout the day rather than just during the play. They would go and search for the beast and then parade it throughout the town, and take it in turns to go in the costume while they were doing that. And almost by accident, so our young people became the beast, and the beast became our young people. And of course, the beast slowly transformed into Cornwall itself, and Cornish identity. The historical figures were engaging with this mystical beast, which was really Cornwall and Cornish people, and the Cornwall identity. And our young people, our helliers, were going out to seek their Cornish identity, find it within themselves and find themselves within it.
Yes, and of course talking about Hellier, there are a series of puns in the play.
Oh, yeah.
Hellier has its own meaning in English, if you like,
Mhm.
but of course it comes from the Cornish Helgior,
Yeah,
hunter.
hunter, yes.
Well, it's quite simple.
Yeah.
Because I was involved at quite an early stage, I wasn't involved in any formation. I had a telephone call and Will come
Yes.
along and play your pipes as one does, you know,
Yes.
and I did. But I seem to remember another improvisation when not the particular youngsters, but some quite young children decided they wanted to free the beast.
Oh God, yes. Yeah.
And they were charging round, free the beast,
Absolutely.
free the beast.
Very rapidly, this beast, who, I mean, he appears to be quite a scary animal. It's got huge teeth, it's big, it's shaggy, and it's bigger than a man. And it does rampage, but small children engaged with the beast.
They did, yes.
And identified with the beast as being theirs. And
Yes.
the baddies were the Raggadazio, the characters that try him.
Of course, the Raggadazio were the perfect manifestation of Cornish geese dancing because we had these wonderful masks,
Yes.
leather masks with
Yes.
the grotesque features.
Absolutely.
And I can remember that children being scared of our masks,
Oh yes.
but not being scared
Not
of the
scared
beast.
of the beast. And as you say, they were following us around,
Yeah.
calling for us to free the beast. Which is brilliant.
It is.
And it resulted in T-shirts that we sold as well. The beast engine, free the beast, which I mean it ties in so well with
Well,
what
it's
the
a
beast has become to us.
wonderful story of, if you like, modern myth, which is the
Mm.
beast of Bodmin, merging with something that's very old.
Yes.
The story, the actual play itself,
Mhm.
just tells Cornish history in a very succinct, idiosyncratic way.
Yes.
It brings in these people to illustrate it,
Yes.
and we have the wonderful Justice Jan.
Well, absolute gift is having Jan Tregeagle
Yeah.
as the local baddie.
Yes.
He existed.
He existed, and he used the
He was
local
based
badge
in
of the play,
Lanhydrock.
yes.
And he's so engaged with Cornish folklore.
Yes.
Whenever you've got a baddie, it's our Justice Jan.
It's all right, that's right, Jan Tregeagle,
Jan
the coast
Tregeagle.
of Jan Tregeagle.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
He comes from here.
He comes right from here,
he's-
yes. So he's drawn into it.
Yeah, what a gift.
Of course, in the conclusion of the play, this death and resurrection, as you
Yes.
said, that's used to, if you like, destroy the beast,
Yes.
destroy Cornish culture, and revive the beast.
Yes.
Which is what makes it topical. And it's topical in two ways.
Yeah.
Every year there's a little bit added about what's going on around us, in good mummers style.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I mean,
And there's
that's what
also a
Johnson is about.
slightly overarching story of Cornwall, which is topical for us today.
Yes, yes.
Overdevelopment and so on,
Yeah.
where we are, our identity, regaining our identity.
Yeah.
And that's what happens with the beast.
Yes.
It's overwhelmed.
Yeah. Whatever we do to the Cornish spirit, it survives and it comes back. And
That's what the beast does.
Well, the beast does, but the beast is the Cornish spirit.
The Cornish spirit.
So, despite the erosion of the language, it survived.
Yes.
It's still there, nagging away.
And that's where
Yeah.
that again is where the modern folklore and very old tradition. I mean, the actual origins of the play go back to the 15th century, I think. The mock mayor, the mock court.
Oh yes, I mean it's a strong tradition with many of the religious festivals. So you have boy bishops, you have mock mayors, you have mock judges, and you know it's part of giving free rein on the holiday.
Yes.
You know, the Lord of Misrule, if you will. So you know, we can get away with this because we have license. We have license because it is our public holiday. We can have license because we are wearing masks, or we're blacked up, or we are guised. We are disguised. So therefore, we have license to do these things and say these things.
And become the other while we're doing it.
And become the other while we're doing it. And we can get away with dressing in drag and presenting some perhaps questionable opinions about the local politicians or the water board or what they're doing on the roads.
I do seem to remember questioning the local MP when the local MP was a member of the Raggadassia.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, whenever the local MP was able to turn up, he of course played old Oliver Crapwell, you know, a principal parliamentarian.
Our local hero, yes.
Absolutely.
Now, one of the things which intrigues me coming back to the Beast is that, as I said, it's a kind of the new and the old, but we're beginning to realise actually the Beast in Bodmin may be a bit older than we think. It wasn't actually part of the revived court in 1974, but it does make an appearance in Bodmin as a dragon, I think.
Oh yes, there's a very lengthy tradition of a dragon in Bodmin. And of course having confrontation with St Petrock.
So what happens there then?
In the St Petrock story, he meets a dragon that is terrorising the local neighbourhood, and he approaches it, calms it down with his soothing Christian act, and removes a splinter from his eye. At which point the dragon is back to being a perfectly
sensible dragon.
ordinary dragon that's not marauding anymore. I mean, probably it's an allegory for St Petrock converting heathens.
Which really takes us back in time, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We're now going back to the 6th century, let alone the 16th century.
And I mean, the tradition of identifying dragons with Saxons because of their...
Of course, that's Arthurian, isn't it?
Oh,
yes.
But, you know, Saxons had dragon horns and banners.
Yes.
So perhaps that's what we're looking at.
That's what we're looking at there.
Is Petrock as a Celtic saint converting a Saxon heathen leader? I don't know. But as I say, there's a long tradition.
That lingers on in folklore in Bodmin. Yes.
But where our local sports hall is, it's called the Dragon Centre, and the reason it's called the Dragon Centre is that it's built in what was known as Dragon Pit.
And this is on Halgaver.
On Halgaver, yeah. It's Bodmin side of Halgaver Moor, and there was obviously a pit there. Probably it was an old tin working, but in the 19th century it was used as the local rubbish tip. But it was always known as Dragon Pit. Now, what association that has in pre-recorded history, I don't know.
But in the Obioses and the dragons all appear in the mystery plays.
Yes.
And we're very close to the story of St Petrock on a number of occasions.
Absolutely. Also, of course, in the earlier examples of what was going on during riding day, frequently the mock mare or the mock trial would involve someone being taken to Halgaver to see the dragon,
Right.
which usually ended up with them being thrown into a pond. But
That was their forfeit. That was their punishment.
That was their forfeit. That was their punishment. That was the mystery. And I mean, the road out across Halgaver is a fairly secluded, scary spot,
Yes.
really. So I don't know. There'd be dragons.
There'll be dragons. Well,
Yeah.
it is a wonderful story, really, because we've got our beast of Bodmin, which is a modern idea. Suddenly we find it being drawn into some very old traditions.
Yes.
And then we discover actually it fits in perfectly with a very old tale of monsters and dragons and that in the area.
Personally, I think our beast is a lane hound.
Yes.
Which crop up all over the country. At our last play, we had a couple who came from Norfolk, and they knew all about them.
Yes. Yeah.
And a lane hound is this big, black, shaggy beast, which usually looks more like a dog, but could equally be feline.
All part of our imagination. It's how we imagine it. It's how we fear it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they invariably haunt lonely lanes, and they usually lead people astray, but occasionally they actually rescue them and put them on the right road. They don't appear to be evil in themselves. They're not satanic, but they're elemental. They will do as they will.
Elemental, unpredictable. And of course, we have the Book of Doom makes an appearance in the play as well.
Oh yes.
So the Book of Doom being the black. Well, in the
Black Hunter.
Black Hunter, exactly. Yes.
And well, again, I mean, I get the impression that he's not properly evil. I mean, he just is.
That's what he is. He's an elemental.
Yeah.
There we have our beast, elemental
Yeah.
creature that represents Cornwall.
Absolutely.
Well, you can't get better than that, can you?
Well, yeah. And of course, the Black Hunter doesn't claim that our beast is one of his own.
You need to explain that. That is the Black Hunter. Of course, is part of the story of the play.
Yes. I mean, the Black Hunter, as Buckadoo is. I mean, he turns up in a lot of the Champion Evil traditions. It's his hounds that chase Tregeagle across the moors, and it's often him that Tregeagle has sold his soul to, and that is the case within our play. The central tenet of it is that Tregeagle, who's the local justice of the peace, has appointed himself judge, jury and executioner of the beast. And he makes a wager. Unfortunately for him, it's on the casket of St Petroc's bones, which we happen to be carrying around on riding day because that's the tradition. Okay, having made this wager, I'm wagering his soul, so the Black Hunter appears, and he engages as the defence counsel, if you will, for the beast who's on trial, and calls the various characters from Cornish history, and represents what has been done to the beast. Tregeagle is after the beast being hanged, drawn and quartered, which is what was done to the martyrs.
As one does,
And
yes.
off and flank. And with a little bit of imagination, it can be seen that the various episodes in Cornish history have resulted in Cornwall being hanged, drawn and quartered. And so, you know, the beast has already suffered the punishment, declines, but survives, and is ultimately found not guilty, and Tregeagle is.
So the beast is freed.
Oh, the beast is free,
Beast is free.
and,
There we are.
returns on an annual basis. So yeah, there you go.
Well, thank you for that. I think that captures the
Absolutely.
story, all the ideas behind it, and thank you. There we go.
That's all right. Yes, guising. You talked about masks.
Yes.
Historically, Bodmin was a leather town, so a lot of the guilds are concerned with, were concerned with the leather trade, and the masks, the guild badges. It's important that they're made of leather.
So it was important for leather to be part
Oh
of the
yes,
action.
absolutely, absolutely. And of course, St Patrick himself was the saint of glovers.
Aha. So there we go.
Yeah, because of another tradition of his, which was freeing the White Hart.
Yes.
Constantine had captured a White Hart, and Petrov
Freed the white heart.
persuaded him to let it go on its way, which of course is another allegory of, you know,
Our beast and
no, of converting a heathen.
converting the heathen. Right, I see. Yes.
Yes. So the White Hart is another version of Christianity, I suppose.
It was also one of the pubs we called in as we go around on our rounds.
It's no accident.
No accident. No. No.
We have the White Hart. We have the Jordan Dragon. Yes, most of the pubs are fairly closely linked with chapels. The riding was a procession.
Yeah.
Some could argue that the riding procession represents the return of St Petrok's bones,
Yeah.
which were stolen from the town. It may not represent that, but there is this processional bit of it, which used to involve parading throughout the town, rather like beating the bounds, but not beating the bounds because you're not going around the outside of the borough, but visiting the various religious houses and hospitals. Whether you're parading with the relics of St Petrok, which is a strong possibility, or a garlanded pole, which we also know is part of the riding tradition. But it was important that these places were visited, and part of that procession, as well as the religious content and the local dignitaries, were also the guilds. Guilds were closely associated with the various religious organisations. So the Guild of Glovers, I think, were associated with Berry Tower, the rood up there. So they would raise money for that chapel,
And that chapel would be represented in the procession.
Yes. Yes. So the guild would be represented within the procession, and the procession would include the various chapels and
I
organisations.
mean, if you cast your mind back to the medieval world, that would have been a big event.
Oh God, yeah.
The whole
Yeah,
town,
yeah.
watching,
Absolutely.
and so it was quite important for the guild to
Very
show
important.
its position there.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, if you think, Lord Mayor's show in London.
Yeah.
It's the same
Bodmin
thing,
show,
but,
yes,
but
yes,
smaller.
yeah.
Yeah. And yes, I mean the link between industry and church was much
Much
closer.
stronger, much closer, yes.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You know, you couldn't afford not to be engaged with the church. You couldn't afford not to be engaged with your guild. And it was.
And Bodmin was a centre for the leather industry.
Bodmin was the
I
centre
think
of
it's
the
not
leather
quite
industry.
interesting at the times.
Oh yeah, there were many tanneries.
Yes.
Yes. So, it come the Reformation, and you've got the dissolution of the various religious houses and
Disassociation
Disassociation.
of the guild, yes.
I mean, it's terrific upheaval.
Which of course was the point at which we had the rebellion, the point at which the mayor got himself hung because he supported the rebellion, and the whole of the story of Bodmin, in fact, pivots around that particular point.
Absolutely. And I mean, the effect that it had on the Cornish language, of course.
Well, there we are.
I mean,
yes.
If one compares and contrasts what happened in Wales, you know, if we just look at the Prayer Book Rebellion as a microcosm, yeah, what we were after was, you know, okay, if you're going to change the church and stop us having it done in Latin, can we at least have it done in a language that we understand?
Yeah.
That's basically what it was. Well, the Welsh were getting theirs.
Yes.
Why shouldn't Cornwall have theirs?
Exactly.
Well, unfortunately, the monarch was a Welshman.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, look.
So we had to support one direction. We didn't get it here.
No, absolutely. Rebellion ensued, and then punishment. 10% of the population.
Yeah. I mean that's one of the things that's
most of whom were Cornish speakers.
Yes. That is why we often see it as a kind of watershed between, you know, a very rich time in Cornish culture, and then we don't know that it was a poor time, but it was certainly an invisible time. Yeah. In Cornish culture thereafter, and we didn't see much then. We don't see much record apart from unwitting testimony in you know, I paid so and so for the piper. Yeah. We see very little then until the 19th century.
Yeah. But I mean that's the nature of Cornish history anyway, isn't it? Boom and bust.
Well, it is.
Boom and bust and
boom and bust.
Absentee landlord.
Exactly.
So yes.
Well, on that point, we'll wind up our interview, and I think that works very, very well.
Right.
Thank you.